everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the Emkay Confluence 2025, the flagship conference of Emkay Global. We're thrilled to have you join us for what promises to be 3 inspiring and impactful days. Our flagship conference has grown and matured with India and has witnessed some of the defining movements of this country. This year, our theme, India Ascending the Next Leap, couldn't be more timely and significant. As we stand at the cusp of a global reset, India faces its own share of challenges and opportunities. However, concrete policy levers and pragmatic approach to current global disorder can not only help India just survive, but even gain strong grounds. India can turn the global reset into a long-term competitive advantage by pairing macro stability with accelerated supply chain rewiring, innovation and tech upgrades, and market diversification. The focus should also be to continue reshaping towards green and digital industries, targeted human capital upgrades, and of course, sharper geopolitical and economic diplomacy. We believe India has its own edge in its ecosystem and its businesses as well as its ambitions. And despite impending global uncertainties, India is prepping to go beyond just scale. Throughout this conference, you can look forward to an array of engaging formats, including Maintrack sessions, thought-provoking panel discussions, and a robust set of more than 200 plus companies and more than 15,000 meetings, which are lined up for the next 3 days. So without much ado, I would like to invite the founder and managing director of Emkay Global, Mr. Krishna Kumar Karwa, to officially raise the curtain on day 1 of Emkay Confluence 2025. So next up, we have with us a leader from one of India's most iconic energy companies. Vikas Kaushal is the director of marketing at HPCL Limited, where he is responsible for steering HPCL's vast network of products, services, and customer touchpoints. Vikas is a seasoned global leader with over 3 decades of experience in the energy domain, including oil and gas, power, renewable, and new energy. As a consultant, Vikas has advised the leading state-owned oil and gas firms in India and internationally on multiple large-scale transformational programs. From traditional fuels to new energy initiatives, he has been at the heart of HPCL's transformations journey. Today, he'll share his perspective on how India's energy sector is adapting to a fast-changing world. He'll be joined by our energy analyst Sabri Hazarika and our head of research Shadri Sen for an engaging conversation on outlook for India's energy sector. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Vikas Kaushal to the stage.
Hello. Thank you, everyone. We have a very unique guest, the Chairman and Managing Director of HPCL. The question that you most commonly get, let's start with that. And I'll club 2 or 3 of these together. I mean, you've joined HPCL after a storied career in the private sector. What was your motivation and the attraction to take up a senior leadership role in the public sector? And what has been your experience so far? Where do you think HPCL's strengths lie? Sometimes all of us in the capital markets take a very unidimensional view of PSUs. I'm sure you have a much more nuanced view of that. So we'd love to start with that. How has your experience been? What motivated you? And where do you think HPCL's strengths lie?
Well, thank you. Thanks for the question, and thanks for inviting me here. I was kind of anticipating that question. You know, I was a consultant in my life, so I learned when you don't want to answer a question, you pose the question back there. So 2 of you are on the stage. If you get a chance to run HPCL, would you not do that?
Absolutely.
So that gives you an answer there. Um, See, we all, and that's going to be a pet theme from me. I've talked to a lot of analysts on this. We all start thinking of companies in our mind. We look at PSUs, we are looking at government companies, we are private companies, MNCs, etc. We should take a different lens of looking at companies. Performing companies, future potential. I follow the same rules on stock markets. 30 minutes after the results, I have to send them in. 45 days after the quarter close, I have to do all those things, so which any of the other private sector guys face. We face the same rules. Yes, the ownership is with the government, but ownership could be with the private company, and they could run it in a different fashion. So I think the narrative which gets set that, oh, this is a government organization, this is not, that is a wrong narrative according to me. And it's not that you, me, or anybody said that narrative. It is just put it in that fashion. Yes, the ownership is with the government. That means certain rules have to be followed. There might have been instances in the past where some things were done in a different fashion. But just coming into this meeting, I was hearing one of your pedigreed analyst friends speaking about it. 31% of corporate profit, I don't know whether it was last quarter or last year, was actually generated by government-owned entities. It's not my words. I didn't do the analysis. I just heard one of the analysts speak on CNBC yesterday. So these organizations have created a lot of asset base and value. Why? Now you ask the question. Now I'll be and give you the answer. For me, it was I spent a lifetime advising clients in the energy sector. I had advised HPCL. I had advised everybody else. Also MNCs. When I got approached for this, the idea was, hey, this is a fantastic platform. I love the place, I love the people. What can we make out of this platform? Some of you in the room and all of you have not been giving enough weightage to the platform, not been giving us enough valuations, giving us more negative or whatever ratings you look at it. Can we change that paradigm? I think it is changeable. And if you do that, if through what we are trying to do in HPCL, if we can create one, and it's not only HPCL, others are also trying to do in different fashion. If we can recreate a different story, which excites the markets, we can re-rate, we can rework, or we can, I would say, unleash the potential of these companies there. Now, let's look at it clinically, how I was making a decision. This is a company which has an asset base, 1 lakh, 2 lakh crores, whatever it is. Last 5 years, we invested close to 1,15,000 crores. How many companies in India have invested that? $55 billion, whatever Forbes ranking you can, Fortune rankings, you can look at that. Last 9 months, every month we have given a monthly PAT of 1,100 plus. How many companies in India do that? People do 1,100 rupees on profit and they do valuations of this much. So it's a phenomenal platform. Now look at the physical side of it. 24 odd thousand pumps, so many retail outlets, 10 crore people we go into the home. So what has been built is phenomenal. It gives an opportunity, and for me it was a chance to execute what I had been professing to many of these as advice. This is, chalo, ab aa jao, kar lo, karke dikhao. So that's how I would answer your question. I don't know whether I've answered. There was a second part to your question also.
Where do you see HPCL strength? But you've touched upon that. I think you've answered all the questions comprehensively.
If I come to HPCL in particular, so we have got the government as the majority shareholder. I think the government has got many objectives. One of them is, of course, social welfare and energy companies. I think there are segments where the social part takes a precedence. So now that you have been in the system, so how do you think the government thinks about balancing the social objective as well as the profitability of the company? I mean, it's both like a profit-making entity, so down the line it has to make profits to sustain and probably like spend on energy transition and others. At the same time, there's like a lot of volatility due to which the social objective is also there. So how do you see that?
See, any government in any part of the world will always have social objectives to meet. And governments use different forms of social objectives. Think of when telecom reforms were happening in India, when licenses were given, everybody was given some universal service obligations, USO, you might have heard of those terms. You have to meet these many number of rural customers. You have to have towers in those many places. So that was one way of doing that. Probably the government-owned entities themselves in that sector were not capable enough of providing those particular things, and maybe the technology was leapfrogging. Hence, when they opened up the bids for new, these USOs were there. Take case of airlines, which were once government-owned but now private. Udan scheme has rural obligations, so many number of flights, etc. So governments have obligations to meet the social objectives, and they have ways and means to do that. Energy sector in India is kind of unique because government also owns some of the most profitable companies in India. I don't remember offhand, but if I look at just the profit of all the OMCs and all the oil sector companies put together, that would be a good 10, 15, whatever number percentage of profit of all corporates in India. So for the energy sector in India, government has is fortunate enough to have entities which are performing, and for decades they have created both asset base and reasonable amount of profitability around it. Of course, there's a bit of, I would say, dichotomy in that because there's also some private sector plays, and as government we are probably governed more on, I would say, more balanced set of objectives rather than just the profitability as the motive. Coming to how does government manage likes of us? Well, we sign an MOU with government every year. As a consultant, I would say that's a very well balanced, you would have all heard of balanced scorecards and all those kind. It's actually a very good balanced scorecard. It gives me opportunity of, it measures physical aspects of it. And governments, by the way, very smart. We all underestimate governments in many ways. For our MOUs, they measure physical aspects, my throughput, my marketing, and whatever I tell them, they give me, the targets they've given me this year are way higher than my refinery capacity. Because they're also gaming on how much of score I can get on those particular things. They measure the new initiatives. They wanted to do ethanol blending. There's a target on ethanol blending, etc. So that's, they also measure profitability in some ways. US capital market analysts might have different matrices on profitability, but some of the matrices which government puts, like they might not put valuation as a metrics, but there is a return on capital. They measure something called return on shareholder investment and some of those things. And government's very smart. They don't take my declaration on the results. They actually take it off from our balance sheet. Everything which is on that scorecard is from a balance sheet there. That defines my stated goals as an organization. And in an answer to, like, if I were to summarize that as an answer to your question, government wants us to do a lot more balanced approach on the entire thing. We are not measured only on profitability, we are measured more as a balanced scorecard. There are also things on compliance which we are measured, like e-procurement, using GEM. Government wanted to promote GEM. We as an organizations put a lot of our purchase on GEM. It got promoted there. So it's a very nice way they are measuring. Now, in any setup, if you own a car and have a driver with you, that person is at your discretion. You will ask him to go and fetch something there. If you have a taxi driver coming to you, you won't ask the taxi driver to fetch the bazaar se bhaji le aana. You will never tell that taxi driver. Similarly, there are times at which when government encourages us or leverages us to meet some of those things. So there was a geopolitical crisis recently. Well, you can do the balance sheet analysis and figure out which of the companies which stocked up the product to do that. At that moment, probably government's intent is there should not be a shortfall of energy in any part of the country. And hence, can I ask my companies to make sure there's no shortfall? After that, they leave the decisions to us. So many of us went and took on more cargoes. We stocked up things. We moved product up country. Those operational decisions were our. But the government has the right to do that intent. They could have done it with the private sector also, but we have the reach. So they will say, oh, make sure that there is no dry out, which is anyway our objective also. But then we will take the actions around it. So I think sometimes it is kind of mistaken that, oh, you know, every morning I have to go and pray to the government ki aaj kya karna hai. No, I run the company and my senior colleagues are here. We run the company as we would run it in any other private sector, probably with more degrees of freedom than you might imagine.
So you have highlighted a couple of strategies that you have implemented. I think one of them was on the margin improvement, and secondly also on improving the asset sweating, especially the throughput per outlet. So can you give us some more color how you are like achieving this, and what are the, how you are implementing this?
So I think now I talk more as an analyst first, and then I'll talk from my role. As an analyst, I would say we are uh, one thing. The state-owned enterprises have not been able to do sufficiently well or project sufficiently well is what exactly you guys measure: productivity, asset sweating, leverage. Those are the terms you all understand it much better than anybody else, and you keep on writing in your reports. Um, there might be reasons because historically we built assets in some ways, and we've been very good at running things like our refineries very well. Throughput of refineries is on an average over 100%. People are running them quite well. But on the whole, there is an opportunity to do better on that. And when we looked at as an HPCL, as a senior leadership team, we found an opportunity that we could increase our margins. And every organization should aim to increase their margins. So we've launched, went public with it on the analyst call. 2-3 months ago, we launched a program called Samriddhi, which is essentially an operational efficiency improvement program. It later on morphed into an EBITDA improvement because we found not everything was cost takeout, some things were positive on the EBITDA from the top line, etc. As a consultant for 25 years, 30 years, I had been advising companies to do this all the time, and organizations do it there. For us, given the scale of our setup, we were able to move quickly and find areas where I would say there were inefficiencies in our system which we couldn't capture. Now, from my experience of having run these programs as consultant, and now in my role I run that, there are stages in which is there. There are the most obvious ones which you get capture there. We've been very successful. We launched it in May, and in 3 months, 2 months actually, in the quarter, we've put a target of 1,000 to 1,500 crores as profit improvement just on the incremental initiatives we do this year. In the first quarter, we got to about 244 crores or thereabouts on accruals and about 370 crores on run rate, because some savings will come on the subsequent months. These were some of the most, I would say, low-hanging fruits. You can quickly gather them. Now we are getting onto the next level of efficiencies, which is like, how do I reorient my supply chains? How do I maximize my throughput of the depot? How many times am I turning my tank? There's nothing businesses run in those fashions. Everybody keeps doing that. In that same spirit, you talked about throughput per pump. We have 24,000 pumps all across the country, different level. We have some of the most fantastic pumps in the country. I visit the markets a lot. I was in Ahmedabad yesterday, visited some of our pumps, phenomenal places. You just need to go out of Bombay, and if anybody's been stopped at Sajgaon, see that it is one of the highest selling there. Yet, in any organization, there'll be a long tail. So if we can improve some of the tail, the same asset for which I'm paying the fixed costs, etc., gets run better. So it's very basic science we are doing. So we are trying to see how we can improve our customer impact, how we can improve our efficiency so that the same asset can put more throughput for me, and as a result, I get more efficiency. So we've launched a program on 15% of our network, about 4,500 odd retail outlets. There is a targeted throughput. We've got some good results, but it's too early. It's a very large scale transformation. But we do aim that for these pilot 15%, by end of the year, we can show a discernible uplift on the throughput. Hence, I'll have those learnings which I can take to the remaining part of my network.
So if I look into your capex cycles, I think we are at the end of one of the big capex cycle where both expansions and upgradations happened in refineries. There was petchem capex, new refinery like Barmer. So now what going ahead? What are your new investment plans? And also if you can touch upon the energy transition capex which you are planning for the next 5-10 years.
So I think you're right. We are towards fag end. We have not yet ended. In the next 12 months, we are still going to be spending significant amount of money in closing out our, I think WISAC, most of the capex is done. We are now in the pre-commissioning stage. In fact, as we speak, yesterday we injected liquid into the things, and now we are trying to see where. So we are in a process of maybe month or 2 months of the exercise in which we can commission it. But capex has already been done, barring the contract closure things, etc. On Barmer, we still have a significant amount of capex, reasonable amount of capex to be left, because we are, if I remember correctly, we are 85%. 85% is what I think we told on the analyst call of total commission is there, and typically completion and capex have a slight lag. So there is some money which is to be spent in the next 12 months on completing that asset. But in this year itself, we will do crude in onto Barmer, and then once things stabilize somewhere in quarter 4, we are aiming to commission the refinery section of, we've redrawn the scheme, we'll first commission the refinery, and then subsequently we'll commission the petchem. So right now, and after I joined in, my focus was first, along with the leadership team here, the focus was just on getting the projects through, and that's what, as a leadership team, we have been really focused on. Once they are there, done, there is a stabilization period along these assets, and we would want to see continuous returns coming out from these assets going forward. You know, it sets HPCL onto the next level of EBITDA there. So that's our first objective. Right now, we have spent time and energies on those. We have not yet drawn up our next capex because we have to first earn the right of doing that, which we are earning right now. Then we have to actually earn the money also. But in the next few quarters, we will draw up our next plan. Having said that, we are a large organization with an ongoing capital also. Even as we speak, even in this year, despite the guidance we have given on the 2 analyst calls in May and last week also, where we are being, I would say, conservative on capital deployment, we still will spend 10 to 12,000 crores or even more. If I add HRRL, it will even be more. Where is our capital going? If I look at, in the past, of course, it was very skewed towards the refineries because we were doing 2 major refinery programs. If I take refineries out of that entire thing, or even in the past, if I look at it, 35% of our capital, maybe even 40, Vinod can correct me, actually went towards what we will define as new energies. I'm putting gas in new energies. Some might say gas is not new energy and all. Some of it went, where did it go? We've been doing things like building our gas infrastructure. We built the Chara terminal, which we are trying to get it going in a bigger way. The gas pipelines and the CGD networks, that was one big area. Some of you might be tracking, we've done the cavern in Mangalore, which is just about, it's finished. It's just waiting some approvals like Pollution Control Board, etc. It'll get commissioned soon. So that's one part of it. We've done some investments on the renewable side. A lot of it has been focused on meeting our own requirements rather than doing third-party solar parks, etc., because we didn't want to deploy capital on that. We have done investments in CBG, the Badang plant, and some other plants. Now we are doing a 2G plant, which is in advanced stages. So there has been capital which has gone into the entire thing. What is the future outlook? Well, these organizations are built on continuous deployment of capital. We would expect more capital to be deployed in the coming years. By end of this year, we will draw up our strategies on what should be the next wave of capital, where do we go. But I see 3 or 4 themes which are emerging. One, there'll be more capital on the green side of the business. Sorry, I also forgot to mention the hydrogen. Well, that's not on our capex. It's a third party doing the capex, but we have just, we're close to awarding a very competitively priced. It's the cheapest price hydrogen project in India, 328 rupees per kg. So in the next, coming to the future, a lot of our investments would be on, I would say, green areas, renewable energy, hydrogen. We would see how this evolves. We can expect more. We could even do projects in future where we take a lot more active part. This one is third parties doing it. We are buying hydrogen from them, but nothing stops us from doing it on our own capital also later. So that would be one major theme around it. Second, as you can imagine, any asset intense sector, certainly refinery sector, always has schemes for debottlenecking, expanding, fine tuning, energy efficiency. So we have a slew of those schemes. As this gets through, we will look at it. And just for a reflection of it, those of you who have tracked the sector long enough would recognize that in 2022, Vizag refinery was 8.2 million tons. And it was almost called as one of the most thakivi refineries in India in terms of GRMs there. It is now 15 MT, already done. This year we are targeting even maybe a 16 MT if I'm getting my numbers right. Once the rough is done, it will be one of the highest GRM refineries, pure play refineries in India. So all of that has been done through big projects, and there are a series of small projects. There are many other series of small projects which are lined up. At the right time, we will take those decisions. In Mumbai also, we've already undertaking or in the process of developing a project for lubes. Similarly, there'll be some other schemes. On the refinery side, as HRRL gets settled in, we have a fantastic asset coming up where 5 years ago there was nothing on that land. There is going to be prosperity in that land. That will have an opportunity of doing a lot more things downstream. We have 4,500 acres of land within our walls. We only use part of it. And also the way we have built the refinery, there is a lot of scalability. Like just to give you an example, the pipe racks have been done so that we can lay more pipes on it whenever we need that. So you can expect down the line some more projects coming up there at the right time on the right projects, and some of it would be taking petrochemical downstreams also. That is how I would think about it. I'm sure there are other routine capital upgrading. One area where we are also putting in some more capital now is putting up large format retail outlets because that's where the brands are built even further. So that's our broad thought process.
Thanks. That was a very comprehensive. So moving on to the industry, this is, I'm sure you, again, a question that you get all the time. The long-term consensus view is that long-term oil prices are on a steady decline from where it is. How does that affect HPCL's future profitability plans? There are some experts who say that, in a few years, a new greenfield refinery will not be viable in terms of, given where gas prices are heading. And what is the risk to that view? Because, we all worry that sometimes when a view becomes very consensus, everybody becomes a little complacent. So asking you to play both sides here, but...
Yeah. So I'll first draw an analogy from the power sector. Again, as a consultant, I worked a lot on that sector. If you read the news reports yesterday, L&T announced a 15,000 crore order they have got from Adani Power, or some 2 billion, or thereabouts, whatever that number was. If you read carefully, it is actually Adani Power, not Adani Green, which is given. It has been, the order has been given for coal-based power, some boilers and some other things. I didn't read all the details, just scanned through it. Why I wanted to give that example, one, it was just yesterday's news, but 3-4 years ago, we thought coal in India was dead. And suddenly then we had to look at where is the base load, we had to do more coal. And right now, the government came out with 80 gigawatt of coal-based capacity to be done it. Even if 80 does not get built, 40, 50 would do. And, I was also part of the consensus view, as you would say, who 4 years ago were saying, no more coal-based plants, that is dead. But suddenly there was a need for that entire thing. So writing of obituaries on fossil fuels, etc., sometimes might be too hazardous and too premature. Having said that, what is my view on oil? I think globally, oil would be steady in terms of volume, marginally declining probably from the current levels or thereabouts. It's been around 100 million barrels per day or plus minus 105, 98, depending on that region. But will it go to 150? No. It's going to be around that region. Where oil goes will get redistributed. If you look at post-COVID incremental energy consumption globally, when I did the last numbers about 8-9 months ago, 25% of post-COVID incremental energy actually flew into India or was shipped into India. Incremental pre-COVID versus what happened in post-COVID 2 years there. That number might be slightly less as some other economies there. When this was 25, China wasn't doing very well. With that spirit, even oil will get redirected there. So our own oil requirements will keep on increasing. We will be the last of the major economies which will peak on oil. And if you ask my view, that peak is at least 15 years away. Having said that, I also hold the view the peak will come. We as organizations and industry need to be braced for it. So I'm not in a typical mold of an oil sector CEO who will say, no, no, oil is going to be there for. Energy transition will happen. There is no doubt about that in my mind. Now, if oil is going to peak there, it makes my job and my leadership team's job very difficult. Should we plan new refineries? Should we not? So as a consultant, I used to always joke that the toughest job in the world is being an oil sector chief in India. Because if you were an oil sector chief in Europe, you only had to think about which green to look at it. No analyst is going to beat you up for not putting a refinery. Here, if we don't do the right thing, you'll ask us questions 3 years later, why did you not do a refinery when the whole world was doing it? So we have to do a very tough balancing act, and capital allocation is the tricky thing here. On greenfield refineries, do I see a lot of scope for massive greenfield refineries in India? No. There might be 1 or 2 here and there, but is there going to be a wave of 10 refineries? I don't think so. That's my personal view, not in my official capacity out here. Yet, if you look at it, the 240 odd million or whatever, that 280, 60, it'll touch 300 this year. Each of these refineries have a potential for expansion, debottlenecking itself. We have 9 million tons refinery coming up in Barmer. We could take up to 20. The site can easily take 20 there. Nothing stops us from doing a brownfield on that in 1 step, 2 steps. The decision I would need to take, should I do 1 CDU, should I do 2 CDUs? Those decisions can be taken on the level. So I see a lot of next wave of investment in the sector being built around the current set of assets. There are already 2 or 3 refineries being talked as greenfield refineries. If they happen, they might be the last of the series of greenfield refineries. But don't forget the fact there is 40, 50 million tons just sitting on debottlenecking there. There is another, Solomon has said this, and it gets quoted quite a few. If we just optimize across some of the refineries, just in the state-owned sectors, there are literally 2 refineries sitting idle in some ways because somebody has CDU more and somebody has a diesel unit more and somebody has isomerization more. If we just optimize, so there is an optimization potential which at some point of time all of us will be forced to go down, that market will force us to go down that path. So that is how I see the oil sector moving. It will be very relevant, it will grow, there is no reason it will grow. Post 240 we might see a declines, a steady, I would say the growth rate is tapering off and then obviously a gradual glide path downwards. That's my view on it. So I don't know whether any follow-up questions you have, I can answer those on this.
No, that's a very comprehensive response and sort of addresses my major queries. I think it's time to throw the floor open for questions from the audience. We've got someone there with hands up. Could we get a mic there, please? Could you just wait for the mic for a second because...
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
So, over last 3 decades, I mean, from 95 at least that I've monitored oil.
You can hold the mic like that.
Yeah. So the oil sector, rightly you said that there has to be a balancing. But from our side, what we see is that 2 things. One is the pricing predictability at different level of crude. Let's say 60, 80, 100, 120. If there is some model which is conveyed and then followed, it is possible to make it more predictable than we trying to get what is the refining, what is the marketing, what is the LPG losses, whether it will come or not. Almost all the energy goes there and not on the business. While it's very efficiently run, it's shown up in ROE, ROCs of HPCL, BPCL. So that is one area which is causing us pain. And as I said, it can be a different level of crude. And the second issue we have is capital allocation. And here also, one part is, of course, the social obligations. And the second part, of course, on the other side is profitability. So that balancing. So that piece also at times, is a concern from our side. So how do you think, is the government open to making it more predictable?
Yeah, I think what government is thinking of doing, I think that's best addressed to the government. I'm not going to sit on the forum and tell what should the government do or should not do. I think government does listen to voices like yours. So if you have voices, go and advocate. Our lives might be slightly easier in doing that. But I've always been a proponent of free markets. Eventually, if anything has to thrive, it is not what the government does which matters, it is eventually what markets do which matter. Because that's the best clearing prices in the market. Telecom, the government doesn't fix tariffs. It used to fix tariff. जब fix किया था तो 16 रुपए 1 minute का call होता था. Who fixes the tariff right now? Who gives? Reliance can give it. Jio so cheap it is giving, but then they clawed it back upstairs. Their government did not do that. Meeting the universal service obligations, government can always, not only in India, globally, government can always frown down. Government of the land can say, hey, you are overcharging, undue profits, all those kind of things. Finally, sovereign has huge rights in any things. So if oil or any other sector has to thrive, eventually it has to be a free market price should do that. I think slowly we will move towards that. And I'm not commenting on what government is going to do. As I said, that's beyond my brief to comment on it. Leave the government to address that. The reason I'm saying that, there are parts of our business which are getting slowly coming out to this. And now it might not be apparent to you all, because I can understand. I started my work, started my career in ICICI actually. The first 5 years of my career, I worked in ICICI. Bandra Kurla complex, their office had just come up at that time. The main one was in South Bombay there. So I can understand how you have to do your Excel sheets. You have to look at next quarter profit, the next quarter, because everybody's looking for a year guidance. So, but when I look at that entire thing, I'm planning a refinery for 25, 30 years. When I look at Barmer, I even know what kind of challenges I would have in first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. When I look at Chara right now, I know you might look at it from the perspective, what is it earning in the next quarter? But I look at it, what can it earn from you for a 25, 30, 40 year period? What's the option value to it? What does it give to my network, etc. And that's where our two worlds are slightly different. I commented it on the analyst call also. If anyone you were there, I was saying, you guys have to run refineries on Excel sheet. We have to run refineries actually on the ground. I think the sector would be re-rated if we are able to converge this distance there. There is no doubt in my mind, because we are not able to tell you the whole story, and you are not able to appreciate our strengths fully. But twain shall meet at some point of time. And I think the market prices will take, eventually it will be a market pricing. Slowly, small parts of the markets are being freed up. We all understand we have to report our numbers, you have to report yours. Government has to report its performance every 5 years, go to the hustings and get the vote. So a lot of priorities are defined there. But think of it, everybody in this room would have probably beaten down the LPG scheme at some Ujjwala scheme, etc. Well, Ujjwala is not, it is done now. All is settled. There is some amount of people who are getting subsidy behind it. They are already getting it in some ways. World has slowly moved on it. It's at Indian pace at which things have moved on behind it. Are we being chased on a daily basis on Ujjwala? No, 2017, 18, 19, we were being chased on Ujjwala. Kitne connection hue? But nobody's asking us those questions, because all who are to be given, there's a 95, 97, 98%, whatever number saturation. So that is all well settled now. And that will take these, slowly it will nibble away. And if you look at Indian history, never have we actually taken very knee-jerk. All things move in slowly, like 1 step forward, 2 step backwards, 3 step forward, that kind of a thing. Second, just remind me your question on capital allocation.
Yeah, so capital allocation, the point again comes to social side of the need to spend for the longer term needs, which is also an important thing.
Yes.
And then what is rightly required in terms of the new energy needs or...
Sure. So I think on that one, I will tell you that there is literally a free hand to all the boards of at least I can speak of OMCs, to define their capital allocation. Sometimes strategic priorities are set up, but nobody is telling me on a daily basis, do this investment or do that investment. Being owned by the government on certain aspects, I would want to, or as a board, we would want to go up or take I would say, a guidance or a steer on some things. But on a daily basis, my capital allocation plan does not go to the government. Tomorrow, if I have to build a terminal in one state, I don't go to the government and ask. I do it not for a social obligation. I do it from my business interest. Where do I fortress myself for the future? How do I protect? So there is a reasonable fairness around it. And actually, the social obligation part you should also think in terms of the USOs, universal. Even the retail network of private sector is required to put in certain um, things on the rural side, etc. Whether if they're not doing it, some of them are paying penalties on it. Some were issued penalties recently. Being in the government sector, we do have to be participative on the affirmative action. Well, anything to do with the government in this country, right from number of seats in parliament down to all those things, has an affirmative action. That's the law of the land. So we have to live with that, and we work around that entire thing. So I don't worry about capital allocation. I can assure you the capital allocation in our decision, even if we have got it wrong, it is got wrong because of our judgment on the entire thing, not that we were arm twisted to do something on that.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Yeah, thanks. Vikas, firstly, thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us for an hour, and thanks to MK for hosting you. Vikas, you personally bring nearly 30 years of experience of the energy domain, as well as maybe 25 years of experience of transformation programs. Now that you've been an insider for 5 months, do you see an opportunity for implementing some large-scale transformation programs within the organization? I know it's very well run, but just in terms of your view of, is there an opportunity there?
So I've been a consultant I was a consultant for a long time. I would say every organization, including the best in the land globally, has opportunities of doing that. I won't name the company in this domain, but you can guess it. This company, in my consulting careers, we did a project with them, is the standard on supply chain in consumer goods in India and globally. It's a global company. It did a transformation program to improve its supply chain. And if anybody does a benchmark on the entire thing, they were the benchmark. But the logic, the CEO was if I don't do anything, I'll fall behind on the entire thing. So every company has a need to do a transformation all the times. Because if we don't do that, we are standing still. Now, transformation does not mean, oh, I get in a consultant and I launch a large program there. I take it to the market, make it visible, do big press conference. There are different styles of it. We already are well into our transformative journey. And the approach we have taken, again, it's the Director of Finance sitting here, I'm there, some of my senior leaders are here. It's an approach we have collectively taken on what works best in that entire thing. It is different from an approach, say, an IOC is taken. IOC is also launching a transformation program. They went around with a big banner, we are not doing that. So what's the transformation we are doing? It's a very silent transformation. And if any one of you is not buying HPCL stock, 5 years later, you will regret it. Mark my words. You can hold me accountable for that. It's not a market guidance, it's a challenge. The transformation we are doing is we are working on what makes us better. So very silently, in the last few months, we have changed certain things internally, which allows. So it might seem a very small thing, but you know, a lot of decisions in our kind of enterprises or any enterprise is taken up by committee of directors. Well, we were to meet for 8 hours a week earlier. Now we meet for 2 hours. We have freed up 6 hours. People will write this big notes. Now they're writing 1 pager on that entire thing. So, you know, doing those things which free up time and do productivity. We challenge ourselves a lot on the decisions in a different fashion. Why this decision? Why not this decision? We are upgrading some of our tools, etc. So there is already a silent transformation which is happening, which in our system, I would say, has released productivity for us, the senior team productivity. We are trying to address how do we fortress our field further. So there are many aspects which we are doing. There are going to be more which we will have to do going forward. One of the waves all of us will have to do, me, you, every organization, is to really look at how we ride the tiger of digital transformations. How do we digitize our businesses more? Where do we do that? HPCL has also been doing that. We had a program called Parikal for 5-6 years where we have done parts of it. Now we are starting to think, what next? Because when we designed that program, ChatGPT wasn't even a word anyone was heard. But now, you know, that's in the businesses in many ways. So we are also working on many of those aspects. Hopefully, in the coming quarters, you will start seeing translation of some of those actions there. At some stage, we might do more formal things, which we have already communicated to the market on Samriddhi, and Abhyuday is the retail transformation program. Those we have already done. They're very focused transformation programs right now. But there are many other things which we don't want to communicate outside, but we are silently doing, and hopefully it will translate into the results.
Sure. Thank you very much. That's most helpful, Vikas. My second question was around non-oil.
Sorry, around?
Non-oil. I mean beyond oil and refining. You mentioned 24,000 retail outlets, etc. So your vision and thought process on, let us say, EV stations, using your network around CGD, which just still seems a bit under-tapped for the country, CGD. And then given the strength of your balance sheet, on the whole, in possibility of, or the logic and thought process of investing in renewables. Thanks.
Yeah, I think each of these areas is in a different stage of evolution right now. I could have a Kodak moment in my life and say, you know, all of us would have heard of the Kodak story, $3 on a film, $1 profit. They invented digital cameras, or they were amongst the first. They did not go down at that. I think if we do have a Kodak moment, then as a leadership team, we have failed in that process. Having said that, each of these areas is very much in the stage of infancy and almost non-value accretive at this point of time. EV chargers, I don't remember the number exactly, 5,000, yeah, some thousands we have already. My utilization on EV chargers is very low. So what we are doing is, rather than just expanding it there, we are trying to figure out where to get the utilization higher. So actually in one of my retail outlets right now, we have put in EV chargers for buses, which is actually getting very high utilization because we have tied up with the bus fleet and those kind of things, etc. So now take the case of CGD. Well, government advertised all the CGD sector, the penetration has not, circles have been awarded, penetration has not been so high. Nobody's been able to meet the minimum work program. Partly because we started, at least on the domestic side as a nation, started selling CGD wrong. We started selling it as a sasta fuel to LPG, whereas it was a more convenient fuel to LPG. So, but having said that, there are good stories in CGD also. There are people making money. We also have invested. We would want to do more on that entire side. Renewables, I think the first wave of I have done a renewable park is gone. Frankly, we would not be just keen to set up another renewable park because what is it that is different there? I don't want to deploy my capital onto just doing a solar park because some people can do it better. Some people can, on market raised money, can even do it market raised and in some cases never paid back money can be doing it much cheaper. ₹2 पे बिजली generate करके क्या फायदा होगा? We will have to find our sweet spot on solar. That's why things like hydrogen, etc., might have more potential for us there. As a team, we have been in the last few years doing a lot of these things and we are gaining experience. We have CBG plant. It is not making money as of now, but we are trying to figure out how to make money on that entire thing. Once I crack that code, I can replicate it up. I personally believe a lot in getting the unit economics right before you do a scale up. So our endeavor in any of the new areas would be to get unit economics right and then do a fast scale up. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I definitely see HPCL's portfolio being much more broader than what it is. But very difficult for me to even tell you that will we owe renewables? No. It could be something different also as it shapes, but around the energy space.
Thank you for your very candid and detailed thoughts. Really appreciate it. And all the best to the entire team. Thank you.
We can take a last question from the floor.
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. What's your take on this whole controversy about this Russian crude procurement, not to procure, etc., etc.? Is it possible for you to give some insights on how you take your decisions and now what's going to happen? I mean, this is slightly political, but if you can give us some insights on the business part of it and what else we can.
So last Friday, this was the first question asked on the analyst call. And before the analyst call ended, somebody had taken that clip and put it on YouTube. Thankfully, nobody from the government called me and asked me to look at those things. So Russian crude, it's obviously the big million-dollar question right now. For the nation, it has played, and after the crisis, when Russian crude went discounted, as a country, we have increased the Russian crude there. Logical, because the government said energy security is more important. They gave a free option for everybody. People bought it up further. Some went into term contracts on Russian crude. Some, like us, were doing the spot buys around that entire thing. Those who have term crudes, what is their outlook? I think it's best answered by them. Rather than, I'll talk on the more generic situation, on more specific on what we are doing. For us, last year, if I remember, now this is data, so I can quote it affirmatively. If I remember correctly, last year the Russian crude was 32% in our portfolio. First quarter, it was 13.2 or 13.4. If I remember correctly, we did not run Russian crude in Mumbai refinery. We ran it only on Vizag. And it was not because of any political or geopolitical considerations. It is all due to economic considerations. When we go in and do our weekly crude buying and do the spot buying on crude, etc., we literally look at what's the best available, what is most economical, what do my refineries need to run, what is my product slate, etc., what is the capability of my refineries. And for us, at the price at which Russian crude was offered on the market, it did not make sense to buy that, and instead we could run other crudes. And actually our portfolios got more skewed towards Western African crudes, which we found much more value accretive to us or giving us more value around that. Even as we speak, there is no embargo on us to buy Russian crude. There is no directive like that. There is no forcing us to do that. If something is available at the right price, we will buy that. If something is not available at the right price, I will run what is most economical to run in my refineries. Now, geopolitically, very difficult to say what happens, because we all live in the world where tariffs are 25% one day, 50% another day. It could be 100%, it could be zero. Who knows? As an organization, we are well protected. We have done our maths around it. What is the impact if there was no Russian crude, etc.? I think all I can tell you is none of you will lose sleep on our EPS if we had zero Russian crude in the last quarter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and this was a fascinating discussion. It gave us great insight into HPCL and broke a lot of preconceived notions about both HPCL and PSUs. So, wish you and HPCL all the best, and we see the next 5 years as very exciting for both the sector and your company.
No, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing our story. It's our responsibility to tell you what we are doing, and hopefully your responsibility to capture that, and then together we see their impact on the share price. So I'm going to go out of the meeting and see where my share price is.